Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Making Sense of It All. I have Mike Padron from the 10 Club joining me. I think we could probably call this episode Making Sense of the Ball. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for joining me. We were talking about this. We've talked about it for a couple of months, but talking about golf balls and like how much of an industry it's become. And it's crazy because in doing some research for this episode, the golf ball market alone has become a $1.31 billion industry as of 2022. So imagine where it is 3 years later. But does that surprise you to hear that number?
Not really. I mean, you think about it, you're out there and most people are gonna lose, I mean, I would think five, six, seven balls around, and you're paying 40, $45 a dozen.
Yeah.
Times however much golf has blown up since COVID. I can't imagine how often people are buying just dozens and dozens of balls. I mean, obviously I'd do it as well. But that doesn't surprise me. It's a huge number, but it does not surprise me at the least.
Well, I'll tell you really where it kind of sparked this conversation between you and I, even as far back as the fall, was I had gone to Vegas and I had rented clubs and I brought some golf balls with me that I normally play just to make sure I had something and I could carry it in my carry-on. But I ended up finding randomly a noodle neon on the course and I couldn't lose it. As bad as I hit it, as hard as the wind was blowing, it just wouldn't get lost. And it made me think, I'm like, am I playing the right ball for myself here? Like I grab a Pro V1 or a Pro V1X or, something that's a premium golf ball and think, okay, well, I'm playing a better ball just because of the price point and for in the, what they say is, valuable about it. But then it just made me question it or it made me at least think about it. So, we've been going back and forth on this for a while. So I said, why don't we just lay something down and actually kind of put our thoughts out there?
No, absolutely. And that's the worst thing. I've done that several times. And that's what got me into the whole golf ball rabbit hole was I found the ball at a course and I played six holes with it. I was doing a match at the time. I came back and I beat the guy and I was like, oh man. I'm like, I've never played it. I've never played this Bridgestone in my life. And all of a sudden, here we go. Um, and I kept it the whole rest of the round, never lost it. It was crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think there's something to it. I think that's what kind of sparked this whole conversation. I think they're premium for a reason, and that's kind of what we wanted to kind of jump on and talk about was that where do we see the differences and where do we see it, what fits what and what ball fits who, and it's it's confusing at times. Believe me, I mean I've been there, and I'm lucky enough to have a little simulator in my garage that I'll throw some numbers out there, but so I can actually do apples for apples. Um, but I can't imagine if you don't have access to any of that, you're just out there saying, like you just said, "Hey, I didn't lose it for nine holes. It must be the perfect ball. Like I'm just going to keep going." So and it may not be. So
Yeah. I mean, like for me, I think about it sometimes because what works for me around the greens or what I think is really good with a wedge doesn't necessarily always translate to a driver for me. So I feel like I have to pick or choose. But I guess along those lines, first thing I'd ask you is, how did you decide what golf ball you wanted to play? Like what was it? And I don't mean when you started getting granular on it. I meant at first, like when you first started playing golf, you first started getting better at it. What were the factors that made you choose a golf ball?
my very first time, I mean, like where I've actually thought of a golf ball before,
Yes.
I would just go grab whatever's on sale and just grab as many as I can, and I didn't really care. But then once I started really looking into it, I think at first was the price. I mean, we were spending so much money on rounds and clubs and everything else. Like, why am I going to spend $50 a dozen to pretty much lose them all because I wasn't as good of a stick back then, and I was losing balls like crazy.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of where that started. I think it was a lot of price, and obviously we fell into some of the marketing stuff. Well, Titleist, this must be the best ball out there. I'm not going to pay for a Pro V1, so I'm going to go for a Tour Shot or whatever forget the one down is from there. Um, but that's kind of where that started. It was mostly price at that point, and then kind of changed as I got a little better at the game.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of argue kind of the same. And I even would even say I went kind of a step further. I mean, like my father-in-law lived on a golf course. And so basically everything that he like got out of his yard that came into his yard, that's what I would play. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't married to any brand. I did see the value in a urethane cover because it would spin and it would kind of, make me feel cool when it would check up on the green, like when I first started playing. So like I felt it, that was a value point to me was in just kind of like being able to do something cool with the ball or like almost like a trick in a way. And that I was enamored with it. Like when I first started playing golf, I was so focused on hitting flop shots or trying to get a ball to check up that was like I didn't care about anything else. It's like if I could hit a wedge that would one hop and skip, or if I could hit a ball way up in the air and get it to trickle out, I was happy.
I still remember, like, I was playing Julian Creek the first time I ever spun a ball back, and I think it was just a really thin wedge shot that I did not know. And I was probably at that time found a tour balata somewhere.
Yeah.
And I remember it hit and like spun back, and I'm like, I'm really good at golf now. Like, and it just happened to be that it was I almost positive it was a tour balata because I fell in love with those balls, and they were so wrong for my game. But it was just that's what was being used at the time, and it was. That's funny that you say that because that's exactly how I was like, okay, well now I need a ball that can do that all the time, and it's just,
Right.
but
Mike, the first time I ever spun a ball back is because it fell off the side of a mountain. I mean, it just
well, you have a lower trajectory anyway, so it's going to be hard for you to spin a lot back. But I hit the ball so high, I just got to put a little spin on it, and it's gonna come back. But
Well,
it's
let's
pretty
talk
cool.
about fitting. Let's talk about fitting tools though, because it's like that's one of those things. There is a lot out there now, just from a like even if you're a consumer who's got access to the web, there are fitting tools out there. I think almost every major ball manufacturer and even a lot of the smaller ball manufacturers have some sort of an online fitting tool. And I think, like you said, there's equipment that can help you fit to it as well. So, you know, tell me about that a little bit. Do you use those online tools? Like when you've kind of gone through your process, do you look at what those ball manufacturers offer through online?
So I've done I've done the Titleist one, I've done the Callaway one, I've done the Ridgestone, and I pretty much know going in when I put my parameters what they're going to give me, which one, just because I've done enough research with them. And then this year, for the first time, I used the Ballnamic on ballfitting.com. I think it's a Ping
It
owned
is.
company.
It is.
Okay.
Ping owns it.
So they're not involved in balls at all. So for them to be able to do this and kind of be outside looking in, it was kind of cool. And you put in basically I started putting in all my preferences. I actually can put in numbers from all my spin rate numbers, my distances that I have on my SkyTrack and go from there. And it spits out some I mean, pretty good numbers as far as how much of a percentage of the match. Like the last one I did, I just looked at was the Wilson staff model was the highest match for me at 95.7%. So obviously that's going to change. If I say, greenside spin is the most important to me, it may give me Tyler's Pro V1X might be the biggest one. Or if I say
Right.
I got to have it no spinning off the tee, it might give me Bridgestone BX or something completely different. So obviously the preferences change a little bit, but it always fit. I did it 3 times because you buy a little 3-pack of them. You do have to buy it. So I will say you can't. It's not just a free fitting. You have to purchase it. You can buy packs of them so you can do them and redeem them down the road. And I
Okay.
bought a 3-pack, did it 3 different times, and every single time it came out with the same three, and then the fourth ball was always kind of a mix. It always came out with Wilson staff model, Callaway Chrome Tour, Strixon Z Star XV, and then a sprinkling of one time it was Pro V1X, one time it was the Tour BX. So it just depended on what I did the preferences of. But those other 3 balls were the 3 balls that kept popping up for me, and that was that ballfitting.com. It's pretty cool. I mean, I never used it before. It shows you like kind of charts of the ball flight according to your stats or your numbers. If you use this ball, that's what it's going to look like in the air. Obviously, with a perfect swing and a perfect day.
Sure.
And then you can see when one comes in steeper than the other. It's pretty cool. It does a good job.
Very cool. I actually for in preparation for this, I went on I went on Titleist website, Bridgestone's, Callaway's, Vices, and I also did one Balnamic fitting, and I did everything intentionally exactly the same. I put in all the exact same data for each one of them, or as closely as I could, because some of them ask a little bit different questions. with the exception of I did Titleist's twice because one time I said price mattered, the other time I said it didn't matter, and I found it very interesting because I felt like I got a hodgepodge of all kinds of different stuff. Not the lob bombs here. I'm not trying to, blow up people's fitting tools or anything, but I mean Titleist went from a Tour Soft to a Pro V1 when price didn't matter. Ballnamic fit me to a Pro V1X where Titleists themselves fit me to a Pro V1, and then Bridgestone went much cheaper. Actually, they actually said play the E12 straight, and I actually messed with that one a little bit just to say, well, if I change this, change that. And they're like, nope, play the E12 straight. Like they would not leave. They would not leave that golf ball. They said this is where you should be. Callaway gave me the Chrome Soft. And then I did Vice for one of the smaller manufacturers because I know that they are an up and coming company and they have a pretty decent ball fitting tool. And they gave me their Vice Pro Air, and then as a second choice their Vice Pro. So what I felt like is that I'm like, okay, I took the same information and went to different manufacturers, and they kind of threw me all over the map. And it was like,
Yeah.
I didn't feel necessarily that I had clarity of choice at the end of it, but I did feel like it's like, okay, if I'm going to try some golf balls, I felt like I knew probably 5 sleeves of golf balls that I was going to buy to try after that. It sounds like your experience with Balnamic and with some of your fittings, it's really given you a solidarity in choice. It's really given you a little bit more of it's kind of confirmed something for you. It hasn't led to more questions per se.
Well, I mean, it definitely led to more questions, only because it brought in some balls that I wasn't even considering. Um, and then, when I kind of narrowed it down, like I knew Pro V1X, even though it told me ideal for wedge spin, I knew there was no way I could use that ball off the tee. I hit the ball way too high with way too much spin. That ball is gone. I mean, I will be donating a lot of balls to backyards
Right.
if I did that. So I kind of at that point I narrowed it down to those three it asked me to, the Chrome Tour, the staff model, and the XV, and then the ball I was playing, the TP5X. And I quickly I quickly got rid of actually the one I was playing, TP5X. And I'd been playing for a year. And I always had issues around the green. I can't ever get this thing to stop. My wedges don't ever seem to go where they want to as far as on the green and stopping. So that's where I kind of went from there, and then I narrowed it down to finally two. I didn't actually do the staff model because it was just way too many choices. So I just decided I'm gonna stick with Chrome Tour and the Strixon XV. Chrome Tour I loved because of the triple track. So that's another reason too. I looked at the balls. I like the preferences on there. So I did the triple track. I played a couple rounds with it, and then I took out the Strixon, and I actually, because of going back to their tool, I went to their site, and they fitted me every time, no matter how much I changed a little bit, answered a little bit here and there. Like I didn't make myself a completely different golfer, but I just kind of changed a little bit here and there.
Right.
Answers that I was kind of between two things, and it kept coming back with the Strixon Z Star Diamond, which is
Okay.
the ball that they made specifically for Brooks Koepka, and it kind of falls right in the middle of their spinny and their almost like a left dash style ball in the XV, and it's right there in the middle. And that's the one I ended up going with. I played 2 rounds with that, and I started doing nines and nines so I can see on the same day because I'm a different golfer every day. And I felt like it was apparent. It was even when I felt like I mishit it a little bit, it kind of stayed its path. It checked up on the greens. It spun back sometimes. It was the ball that I went with, and that's what I'm going with. I actually ordered them through the golfballs.com. Feeling a little plug there because golfballs.com does that line for you, the alignment XL or the Align XL. So it comes pre-printed on there, and I've had no issues with that since. So
Nice.
it's been good. So that was my whole thing. And it took a while. I mean, that took a couple months to get it all done. But for at least 2025, that's what I'm going to stick with and go from there.
So just stick with whatever Brooks is playing from now on, and you should be okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The problem is he's almost the same golfer every time. I'm different from 2024 to 2025 to I know for 2026 it's going to be 3 different people. So it may be a different ball come that year, but
You brought
I
up
took.
You brought up something that's very interesting to me is the alignment part of it because I saw a video not that long ago where they were talking about the fact that like when you use alignment aids on the ball, you can get very intrinsic with the way that you think about putting, and that's not something we talked about at all here. Is like as far as like what graphics are printed on the ball or what they use is it really does affect how you approach putting. And some people are very extrinsic and they look at the environment, they kind of observe a line or picture a line and they just go and they're not really line focused. Whereas some people they're you think about things like aim point and stuff like that, where people are really kind of focused on trying to pick a spot and how
Right.
walk off a putt, whatever it is. But it's like they're much more intrinsic, where they're focused on how they're thinking about the putt instead of what they're seeing just out in the environment. So I think that that's something that bears mentioning because different balls have different alignments, and as you said, you can order them with custom alignments if you order them from the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a huge, I've tried it without lining up. I'm not very good at using just the putter and looking down the line to do it. So I have to have some sort of line, and just that's what I've always liked. And not only that, it gives me feedback immediately as soon as I hit that putt. Like I played this morning, and I missed a lot of putts within 6, 7 feet that I normally would probably make, but I knew it wasn't the putt because the line was perfectly end over end. I just couldn't read it for anything.
Yeah.
And I was just lipping everything out because I was just playing too much break or not enough break or and the line told me, look, you're putting it fine, you're rolling it well. You're not hitting your spot. Or you're misreading your spot, I guess. So that's why I like the line. I think it gives you a lot of feedback. But I did see that recently where a lot of people are going away from it, or even going like the line, almost like the club face of the ball, or the club
Hmm.
face of the putter, and doing it kind of like perpendicular to it. Um, and I never tried it, so I need a line to be able to tell me where I'm going.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm almost the opposite with some of that stuff, and it's I have tried to become very analytical with putting just because I'm like I can improve this. I'm not doing well enough with it, but just naturally, like most of my putters that I've ever had don't have a line on them. They have no type of alignment aid. Like, and then I've always tried to just like when I, especially if I'm putting poorly or if I'm getting too much in my head, I try to put the not to where I can't see anything but the white of the ball down. And then it allows me to kind of just look, observe, and putt quick, like not
Right.
quickly, but just like what I see, just like that old Dave Stockton thing where it's like it's how do you write your signature? You just go. You don't think about making a J and then an E and then an S and then an S and then an E. You just sign your signature. And the same way I've always tried to think about my putting the same way. That being said, in the last year, I've tried some different things to get a little bit more analytical, and I don't know that it fits me. I think sometimes I get lost in it, and I get too stuck in my own head rather than really just observing what's in front of me and going. You know, I think all of these things are important, and I think we kind of scratched the surface on a little bit of a lot of things here. But do you think that this is good for the consumer? Like, do you think that like a lot of choices like this or something, is it good for people or is it just kind of death by a thousand paper cuts sometimes?
Huh. I mean, I think it's paper cuts for sure. No, I think it's good. I mean, I guess to have options is always good. Um, a lot of these, there's a lot more golf ball brands that have popped up recently that maybe we didn't see that was going to
Yes.
happen. Um, I could see that being a little too much, and you don't know. You tend to trust or go towards the big names first, and there could be some smaller names that are just as good, and are making it a premium ball just like anybody else. But because they don't have the marketing or they don't have the name, they get kind of looked over. But I mean, I think it's good, obviously, to have options. And then once it's a pain in the butt to go through it all for sure. But it's good to have different options. I think some of the companies out there are just getting way too many options. Um, and I think Bridgestone has an obscene amount of
Right.
premium, like their premium line at Tour B just has, I think, 6 or 7 in there, and just the Tour B models. And it's just that's just a lot.
It is.
Titleist, you got Pro V1, Pro V1X, and Left Dash, and Left Dash is really only for specific people. Chrome Tour, you got Chrome Tour, and Chrome Tour X and the Chrome Soft. So it's like I think some of them within the golf ball companies, some of them gotten way too many choices. And I just can't imagine for sales it's good, but yeah, I guess if it stays profitable, they'll keep doing it. It's $1 billion industry. So,
100%, 100%. I mean, when I think about it as a sport, and you and I both played baseball for a long time growing up, and it's everybody used the same ball, everybody used, a similar bat as a kid, but it all boils down to wood when you get to become a professional. And I always think, some standardization within a sport really makes talent shine. But it's like I think about, like, if you're when you talk about spin per se on a baseball, you watch Roger Clemens throw a four-seam fastball, or you watch Pedro Martinez sit there and ride seams and make something tail 12, 18 inches left or right. And it's like they had to do it with the same baseball. And I think that's the one thing that with golf, everything is so customized, and there's no standardization of the golf ball, at least not yet. They're talking about that as potentially being something that happens at the professional game, but it really does allow people to try to dial in some of their misses or some of the things that they may do that another person doesn't. It's another spot, clubs, it's the ball everywhere where they can kind of fix their, whether it's grip size, any of that stuff, they can try to fix some of their misses before they even take swing one. So I think that's, it's interesting. And I think that, to your point, I don't think choice is a bad thing for the market, but I think sometimes it can be overwhelming. But I also, from a business perspective in today's world, there's so many opportunities for white labeled construction of golf balls and different things like that. You're seeing all kinds of companies give rise to a quote unquote premium urethane golf ball.
right.
I'd argue most of them are probably made in the same factory somewhere in Korea or China or somewhere.
I could totally see that. And that's the thing. You don't know what the difference is. And a lot of times you think, oh, this one's better, and only because it said Titleist on it or TaylorMade or whatever your preference is. And um, yeah, I think it's gotten not out of control yet. But you mentioned it's interesting to see what's going to happen here in the pro game and how that's going to trickle down because you start, making it to conform to one ball, like in baseball, or one parameter of balls, it's going to change a lot.
No
That's
doubt.
that's a huge difference in what we're doing now. And I don't know, obviously it may not trickle down to us, but we're not going to be wanting to be out there like, oh yeah, we're shooting this. Yeah, well, you're not playing pro ball. You're like, well, that's true. Like but it's true. Like, yeah, you're playing with a different kind of ball. That's not fair.
Yep.
So I get it. I mean, I just don't know how it's going to trickle down. That's a whole different conversation if and when that happens. But a
Different
lot of
time,
choices
different
out
podcast, my friend.
there. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Before we wrap this up, anything else you want to say about balls before we get done?
No, I think good. I think you said something about used golf balls to look into. I think they're okay. I think, especially starting out for somebody who just wants to get the game going, doesn't really care a lot about losing them or the performance as much, just trying to get good swing on the ball. That's the perfect way to go. Go buy some used golf balls, buy some X outs, whatever you can, just to keep the cost down and just get out there and play and swing it. Obviously, as you get later in the game and you're keeping a ball a long time, 4, 5, 6, 9 holes, 10 holes, whatever it is, you're going to want something that's going to last. So that's the only thing I would say. Also, on those used golf balls is just that's going to depend on the person, really.
Yeah, I think
But
it's a great point. Get out. I mean, the whole point is to go out and enjoy yourself. I mean,
so,
unless somebody's cutting you a check to play the game, the whole point is to have fun.
yep, absolutely.
All right, man. We'll catch you down the road.
I appreciate it. Thank you.